All right. He's produced and directed more than 2,500 events, including NBA Finals, the World Series, even global events, Manchester City Football Club. He's got a new book out called Beyond the Scoreboard, The Ultimate Guide to Sports Event Presentation. Don Costanti, thanks for giving us a little time today, and congrats on the new book.
No, thank you, Jeff and Jason. Thanks for having me.
Talk about this. This is my bag, if we're being quite honest. Jeff loves the sport. I love the show. And I do love the show. You've managed events at the very highest level after a decades of doing this work. Why now? Why put all your lessons into one book?
Well, you guys would be amazed. There's never been a book or a class to teach people how to produce or put on an event, okay, for or a game day. I have done this for 3 decades. I think that it's amazing. It always baffles my mind. People getting into this role, they're inheriting what's currently being done, and they just continue to either do it because of lack of experience. So they continue the status quo until they learn where they can make changes, or they have really good leadership that has done it and they kind of help them along the way. So this book is intended to really help four distinct audiences and with that mindset. One is the students, sport management, who's coming up, educate them on what this role really is about and maybe position them better for an opportunity to get a job coming out of school. The second group is current presentation people, professionals, interns, coordinators, managers, directors. Maybe they're doing a great job, and there are some organizations that do a great job out there, but there are far more that are struggling or could use some guidance. This book is for them as well. And then probably for you, Jeff and Jason, probably this is amazing. The leadership that oversees this particular area tends to never have never worked in this role. So you got marketers or sponsorship people, not to say they can't, but again, they haven't walked the walk and been in there. So this book is educating them on what the department is made of, how it should be structured, or what the communication documents makes them a better leader, right? And then the last one is pulling the curtain back for the fan base out there, gives them a snapshot as to what really goes on behind the scenes to put on a game day.
So, as you walk through this experience, what was the biggest challenge that you saw taking over an event?
Oh, for me personally, it's philosophy. You know, when you're dealing with ownership, sometimes ownership's philosophy or viewpoint on how an event presentation should be doesn't really match up. Maybe in some situations, owners want more the game itself to be the entertainment, and others want more entertainment to really engage with a lot of those significant others who are coming there outside of the game itself. And so I think that struggle sometimes working with groups or teams or owners that don't necessarily see the value yet in event presentation or in the creating an experience, and they want the game just to be the entertainment.
In the book, you talk about the idea of sports centric versus fan centric. And not everybody in the stands is a diehard fan. They're not all there to see the sport. Some of them are there for the show. How do you design experiences that connect with casual fans, but also don't alienate the diehards who don't want to be distracted every 3 seconds?
Listen, my wife, no disrespect, doesn't like sports. Okay. We were in years ago down in Florida. We had the opportunity, I had 2 tickets to go to the Orlando Magic. You guys will appreciate this. It was Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal. And I wanted to go. Well, she ended up going, not because she wanted to. I dragged her there, but because Orlando Magic did a great job. And what you're talking about, creating an experience. By the fourth quarter, she's standing up, jumping up and down, loving the t-shirts being tossed at her, watching the video boards, the dancers. She looks at me and says, Don, you have to get a job in the NBA. And, I ended up doing it, and she ended up getting one as well. But it's important to understand a small percentage of people coming to sporting events are there just for the game. Okay. There are a lot of decision makers, a lot of other people. The game itself is no longer just enough. You have to create an experience. And you do that by using whatever resources you have available. Maybe this is a high school team. Maybe they don't have video or LED boards. Maybe they do. And you got to take advantage of your community resources if you are lacking internally. So it's gathering all of those, systematically placing them in a sequential order within a run of show that is logical, creates moments. You then enhance it with music and other things. That's how you create the experience.
When do you decide enough is too much?
Yeah. So that's a good question because I think that all is about communication, right? So it comes down to having the communication on two parts. Early on in my career, it was just come in, do it, and we heard feedback. But nowadays, it's more communicate with business ops, the owner, of course, we talked about with the philosophy and the executive VP, maybe a business, but it's also now communicating on the team side with the general manager and the coach and what's their philosophy. You don't want to overstep or create a distraction for the coach with the players, then they're not concentrating on the game. So it's marrying those two philosophies together, which hopefully creates a formula for something that is acceptable from the organization, from both sides and from the fans.
How do you manage the egos and dealing with if somebody wants something versus what you know is going to be wrong? I'll just give you some examples
Yeah.
of watching from TV of texts that I've gotten from Jason over the years. Color rush games where the Bills and the Jets are playing and colorblind people can't tell the difference between the teams. Or NBA games where they have decided to make the courts almost like an extra player or an event, but sometimes you can't see the lines.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Restate your question again one more time. It cut out on me.
So how do you figure out like where it's too much?
Yeah.
Like the examples that I gave
Yeah.
are the color rush game or the NBA courts where that becomes a distraction instead of an enhancement.
Well, you hear it from the fans, right? I mean, you're going to hear it. And I think it's through feedback. Obviously, when I'm doing an event, you're monitoring the crowd. You're watching the reactions. You're also taking the data that's coming in on surveys on the presentation. If you don't have that, then you're shaping the questions so that you're getting the type of information that you need, that you can make the necessary adjustments. Listen, event presentation is constant iteration. So it's constantly being iterated and to make it better. And so it's not always going to be a home run. You go into it with some inherent risk. That's just the form of creativity, right? So it doesn't always hit the mark. You get the feedback, you make adjustments.
Jeff monitors my text messages to know how things are going. That's the feedback that he gets, whether it's something that's liked by people and not. I wanted to ask about sponsors, their growth in the game, and how you make it a part of the game without intruding. I mean, we have here, my 8-year-old knows that if somebody misses 2 free throws, we get free Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets because of the Brick and for Chicken promotion. So how do you balance that with it being so overly intrusive that everything you see is a branding opportunity for somebody?
Well, I think one of the things and one of the reasons why I wanted to put this book together is to provide just kind of that structure or process for incorporating partners in a way that's not bombarding the fan base or creating a distraction to the game itself. I mean, I have strategically put into my book 14 criteria that outlines how to go about creating content and incorporating partners into an activation. Listen, we used to do that too, where you tied the score or an achievement with something that quickly went away with some of our coaches because you would hear the booing coming if they missed the free throw or we lost the game, right? But I think it's about taking whatever the activation is. The event presentation director has to be that filter for the fans. It's not always seen in the light by the salespeople or by the sponsor to be, they think it's a great idea, but it might not translate well in stadium or in arena, and that's up to the event presentation an event presentation director to say, listen, this is good. Let's just tweak it a little bit. Let's add X, Y, and Z. Let's rehearse it, and then we can implement it so that it is blended with the organization's brand, helping to achieve the goals and aspirations of enhancing with entertainment, in addition to helping the sponsor accomplish their goals.
I promise I'll move on from the fan engagement one in a second, but I mean, this all fascinates me. The use of video boards and digital and balancing that, I love the use of video boards. So I go to the Phillies game the other night and you have Duran's entrance where there's fire and a spider and everything. At the same time, I know Jeff and I do too miss the outfield wall that had the old scoreboard for all the games. That's not there anymore, that now is a video wall for whatever wants to advertise or whatever they want to have there.
Yeah.
Is baseball more traditional? What sports do you get the most blowback from when you make these changes, and how do you try to balance that?
Yeah, so by far baseball. When I came from the NBA, it was, foot on the pedal going forward. The NBA was all behind, what's the latest and greatest, and the players were even more engaging in terms of wanting to do a lot of the content and be involved. When I got to baseball, very, very traditional, very, very traditional, and very understandable, national pastime. So I wanted to, when I came to Kansas City, create an NBA infused baseball game, but without upsetting the traditionalists. And, you talk about, like video boards. Yes, there are a lot of people that rely on the stats, and seeing those in particular locations for a number of years, you get used to it, and pulling those all of a sudden for a video board creates some hardship, a pain point potentially. Unfortunately, whatever changes you end up making to something that's been out there for a long time, it's not going to please everybody all the time. Hopefully they replace that with stats somewhere else, right? That's in a visual line. If not, then obviously that's part of the fan surveys. That's part of the feedback that you get back that say, hey, wait, what you took away was something that we relied on. That's part of what makes our fan experience good. We need to see that back.
Having covered hundreds of games and been a spectator for hundreds of games, I have my own opinion as to the beginning of a World Series, or the Army Navy game. You've done so many of these events. Which of the ones got you most charged up? Which of the ones were you most excited to do?
Yeah, I think it was the Jewel events. I think when you reach that level, to get into like an NBA Finals, a World Series, an NBA All-Star game, or a Major League Baseball All-Star game, or Manchester City opening day. I think those jewel events that are so big, have so much attention, just naturally energize you.
Have you ever had a situation where leadership resisted the fan engagement? You talk about the fan survey, but when the fans say they want something and leadership is like, nah, and you've had to kind of fight for that vision. How do you handle those situations?
Yeah, communication. All you can do is communicate as the event director your experience, why it would be a good idea just to do X, Y, and Z. In the end, it's their decision, right? And so then it's your job taking what their direction is and making it work. Whether it's going from maybe an owner doesn't want to be fan centric, they want to be sport centric, and they want the game itself to be, because they want the purity of the game to be the entertainment itself. Well, how do you make that entertaining, especially for people who aren't necessarily sports fans? Like my wife, I told you, why would she come to a game if everything has to be related to the sport and nothing can be anything else? So, there are challenges in the role, but I look at those challenges as opportunities to do something different. And so that's the approach that you take to your team. The people that work under in the event presentation department, you don't go, oh my gosh, the owner doesn't want to do this, we can't do that. No, you take what he's giving you or she's giving you and you say, okay, you question it with them, but then afterwards you direct it to your team. Here's an opportunity to do something different. We have to take an event that's going to be sport specific. We can't do any of these other gimmicks, and we have to make it entertaining.
In the book,
Who's
you talk. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
who's the biggest meddlers? Marketing, owners, or
No
or
question.
networks?
Listen, my personal, it's believe it or not, over the years, it's kind of shifted. It used to be owners in the beginning. Okay, in my early part of my 30 years doing this, in the end, it's more the team side. It's more the general managers and the team business side that start to get in there about, especially if the team's not doing well. They start questioning the music that's being played or what's being shown at that moment, or, oh, that player,
Mascots.
why is that player up on the screen? He just hit an out, or whatever it may be. It's like, oh my gosh. So now you got to take into account all these different potential situations.
And he definitely made an out because you put him on the screen.
It
That's
was it
clear.
was actually the event presentation's fault.
That's
Yes.
definitely what happened. You say in the book that small details can make or break a fan's memory of an event. What's one or two of the little things that people don't know about that make that huge difference for a fan?
Yeah, so since we were talking about basketball with the Spurs, take this for an example. We wanted to incorporate a brand new idea, something that I wanted to use the height of the building to our advantage for promotion. So I wanted to drop beach balls from 100 and 30 feet up in the air down. And in the NBA during a timeout, you can't do anything that's going to distract the team. If you have to do this promotion, we're doing it on the court. So you're talking about dropping beach balls, and those balls are going to sway and they can't go into, and we did it on the visiting team side, into that huddle or you're going to get fined. So this is the detail. And this is what I'm talking about, small details. I'm talking about we rehearsed for 2 weeks prior to a game day because we wanted the HVAC system to be exactly how it was going to be running on game day. And we got the beach balls. We then measured how much they would with the HVAC system move. And I'm glad we did, because the first time we did it, they went right into the audience and they went all over the place. We taped pennies to them at different times. We put 2 pennies, 3 pennies, 4 pennies, 5 pennies. We finally got it to the weight where the balls would move, but they stayed relatively just in a diameter that we wanted it to be. Then we rehearsed the timing of getting everything with the props on, where the camera operator is going to be, where the host is going to be, what music we were going to run, where the game crew are going to be staged once they put the props out there. So you're going to see game crew bringing it out, but you don't want them to be noticed. Big difference. And then we went through the timing of executing it and the timing to get it off. People don't realize how much goes into putting that on to make a successful, in this particular case, contest. Those are the details that make a difference and make it memorable.
People will tell you I'm a get off the lawn kind of guy. I
You
like I
telling
like
yourself too, you're a
That's
get off
right.
the lawn guy.
Exactly. So over time, what I've noticed about sports is the attention span has shrunk. Does that make your game your job harder?
Well, I think it's an opportunity. I mean, if the attention span is getting shorter, then what can we do? It's about quantity. It's not about quantity. It's about impact versus quantity, right? And
Mhm.
I think that you see that when you go to Disney, characters are out there for 40 minutes and they're off, for a couple hours, then they come back. We do the same thing when you talk about entertainment resources. The philosophy that I always incorporated was that kind of mentality. You don't see the mascot all the time. You see him out there or her out there for maybe 20 minutes and then they're gone. And then they show up in 15 minutes later, they're over here. I think it's about it, impact versus quantity. If we were sticking content in everybody's face all the time, they would tune it out, right? So we have to be more impactful, more strategic in what you're doing.
I'm curious how working with different sports cultures impacts your event planning. Doing football in the States, is it different than Manchester City in a football culture over there across the pond?
The principles of event presentation apply across the board: timing, transition, execution, to putting on a great event, whether it's overseas or here. The difference is much more organic in terms of the audience and how they generate excitement, meaning that when we're where we are here in the United States, it's much more orchestrated, using the mascot to generate, the crowd, or using call to actions like stand up, make noise, and noise meters, and using the music. Over there, it needs to be more organic, and the fans need the chants and the songs come across more organically. If you were going to flash up, make noise, or stand up and all that, at least when we were working with Manchester years ago, they would say you're crazy.
Looking to the future, whether it's gambling or in-stadium activations, AI, AR, how do you see fan engagement evolving and the immersive stadium experience changing?
Yeah, you know, I think people are looking for more personalized experiences. You know, I think that, you know, when they're coming out, it's not just about the game. As we mentioned already, it's about a total package. And I think, you know, there's a lot of technology and it's constantly evolving, but there's a lot of technology that's not really affordable to most people. I mean, the mixed reality or, you know, people are creating, you know, they're working on smart stadiums with Wi-Fi, full 5G, and all that for not just streaming, but for real-time stats, dynamic replays, bigger video boards, all of that. A lot of that's great, but there's a lot of people that don't have the money to do all of that. And I think AI, here's a technology that's coming and it is coming on fast. So I think this is something that it's not, it's reshaping now event presentation. And what I mean by that, it's you know, reshaping the way that content's being created to real-time decisions. Okay. The type of content that, or it's going to allow teams, as I was mentioning, to personalize experiences more than ever through, you know, curating music, promotions, more content based on the fan behavior.
Or even the way Disney is doing the games with their characters, where you have an alternative
Exactly.
broadcast that allows kids to. I mean, my 8-year-old now thinks he roots for the Jaguars because he saw a game that they played in Toy Story in Woody's bedroom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's for him is memorable that he saw 3 years ago, and now all of a sudden he thinks he roots for that team.
And,
So,
and and you know the other thing about AI, it's going to help with the workload in terms of streamlining process. And you know all these run of shows and all these documents that I talk about creating in this book. Sooner than later, I mean, all this stuff is going to be able to be more readily available in quicker time and allow humans to actually work on things that may be more important and less task oriented.
well, until it is, the book is Beyond the Scoreboard, the ultimate guide to sports events presentation. Jeff is holding up the book. You should go and get it.
It's not working.
It will tell you everything you need to know about how the game that you see comes about. Don, thank you so much for giving us some time to break it down. We wish you the best of luck with the book and hope to get to talk to you again.
Jason, Jeff, thank you so much, guys.